Hey everyone, how y'all doing there? Oh, forgot to do one thing here. There we go. Oh, all right. So Sunday morning here, gonna do it. Just found out that um, Eli's special ed worker canceled for this morning, so he may be sneaking, be even coming over here in a couple hours here. So yeah, I may have to cut it short when he comes here. Sometimes he gets upset if I'm not out there with him. Alrighty, so um, let's get rid of the membership, 99 cents a month. Banners, get rid of that. Boom, there we go. And back up there for this. Okay, so we are on chapter 5 and 6 this morning. And for those that come in that or are watching this on the replay and haven't caught the other ones before it, we're doing this one right here. Scout and the Ninja. Scout is Trustworthy, book 1. It's in the same universe as just about everything else here. And it started out the day that the news of the asteroid was released. And so that was on September 18th, I believe. We're now 4 days later on September 22nd in Tempe, Arizona, where where most everyone is going along. Oh, okay, I believe what the president's saying and what NOAA's saying and NASA's saying and FEMA's saying. It's there's nothing to worry about, and there are others that are going, no, we know something's going on. They're acting things out and taking care of things, trying to play catch up on. They thought they had more time before a big disaster. So, anyways, that's what they're working on right now. Michael Moore, the scout, and Kimberly Jackson, the ninja, have met, and after years of looking at each other at an archery contest where they were both misinformed about the other. Michael's told that she had a boyfriend she was seeing very strongly, and she was told that he does not like women at all. That ask boys out. He believes in a more traditional relationship, and so they never asked each other out until they ran into each other the morning after the announcement at Harbor Freight, and found out that they they don't have they were basically lied to about the other, and now they're trying to see each other, and they're getting things going, trying to get it going. Anyways, all right, so we're going to jump in here now and get going on this. Hang on, I just got a little ping here. Hang on, I got to take my daughter on this. Okay, all right. So let's bring up the book and go to this outlet here. Boom, there we go. Tuesday, chapter 5, Tuesday, the date, September 22nd, 2037, Tuesday morning. Michael was tying his shoes when his phone pinged that he had a text message. He finished and reached over and picked up the phone. It was a message from Kimberly. He tapped it open. Hey, Super Scout husband. Oh, that's the other thing. She did propose to him and he accepted, and they set the date 22 months out, just despite their mothers. Hey, Super Scout husband, are you up? We need to talk. You are my heart and my breath. Love you too much. Michael grabbed his laptop and opened it and accessed talks. He then texted her back. Hey, super hot, sexy ninja wife. I'm getting on talks. You waited about 10 seconds and she popped up on the screen. She was she was sitting on her bed in front of the swords and her father's pictures wearing green flannel pajamas. Hey, sunshine, he said with a big smile. Hey, love, she said and chuckled at his face. What's with the big smile? You're back from Jake's and I get to kiss you after our date tonight. She laughed. You're silly. I'm your silly. Yes, you are. So what's up? Jake's place feels worse than it looks. Her face turned dire. He was right that the neighborhood is banding together, but his place is so open. You can snipe at the house and barns from tree cover across the street. That's not good. The barn isn't as bad as I thought. It does have lights and a couple plugs. Oh, hang on, I need to change that. It's not he said. It's she said. She's she said they were 215 amp circuits only. The, there's a hose bib for well water, but no toilet. Ah, that's not again. Oh, again, that's not good. Jake said we'd have to dig a pit, and he has an old outhouse to go on the pit. It was gross and needs to be cleaned and painted inside. That's much better than a trench line. I'm afraid to ask. When camping and there's no toilets, we dig a trench 6 to 9 inches wide and about 9 to 12 inches deep, and about 3 to 6 feet long. You start at one end, use it, cover it, and move down the trench till you use it all. Hang on. Use it all, and start another one. There we go. And you're out in the open. She scrunched, SCRUN, scrunched her face up, face up. Yeah, there we go. We try to put it in the bushes and hang a red flag when in use. So any type of outhouse is better than a trench line, especially in the rain. I'm not sure that makes me feel better. So how much room is there in the barn? We can park the truck and trailer in there and set up a kitchen area and have separate areas for sleeping and storing our stuff. But the walls are thin boards and aren't totally sealed, so the wind blows through the cracks. There's a hayloft over the entire area, hang on here, over the first floor, I guess is what you'd call it. That worries me on several levels. Hang on a second, just got to reply. Okay, so Eli's over here now. And hang on, I gotta go check on the grandson. So hang on a second here. All righty. Yeah, so I got two grandsons, the oldest and the youngest. And number 3 went back with my daughter, and she put Kung Fu Panda on for them. All righty. That worries me on several levels. The cracks can let rodents in, and thin boards won't stop bullets. Kimberly continued, and there's only one way in and out. If we had a heavy-duty four-wheel drive with big tires, we might be able to get out the back of the property to the Forest Service road. To the Forest Service road. If we come under attack, we're going to have to make a run for it on foot. Michael took a deep breath and rested his chin on his palm as he thought for several seconds before saying anything. When he did speak, he leaned forward and looked intently at the image of Kimberly on his laptop. Kimberly, I want you to think seriously about what I'm going to say. I love you, and I don't want you to have to do anything that will cause you to have any guilty feelings with your mother or do anything you'll regret later and cause you nightmares. He took another breath and blew it out slowly as he composed his thoughts some more. I watched your competition last Saturday on YouTube. You have some serious skills that will help keep you and your mother alive in the world we both believe will come. Those skills mean you may well have to kill a scumbag or two to survive. He paused and put his hands out in front of him towards the laptop. In that light, I would recommend that you practice your knife work and shooting. Hopefully, Jake will know where you can practice shooting without drawing attention to yourself. You know that if you don't practice, you will hesitate when it comes time to shoot. Kimberly nodded, then asked, "You're right. The more I practice my blocks, the quicker I can react to an opponent's strike. So what guns do you have?" My parents weren't allowed to have firearms in a home with foster children, so they don't have any. That's why I'm into archery. It's allowed. I can do a very mean Stephen Emile. Who's that? Stephen Emile, he plays Oliver Queen. You know, the Green Arrow. Oh, so you blame yourself for everything, she fired back, snickering. No, I can rapid shoot arrows very accurately. So do I need to get you a green hood? Kimberly was laughing now. Michael turned bright red. Hang on a second here. I'm on the list. Yeah, no, you can't. Go. Sorry about that. Turn bright red. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Kimberly saw him blush and stopped laughing. Got very serious. Wait a minute. You have a green arrow hood? I kind of have. Hang on, let me change that. I kind of have the whole costume, he said softly. Short sleeve or long sleeve version? Long sleeve. Cool. Now I don't feel so out of place with my ninja outfit. You have a ninja outfit? That has got to be so sexy hot with your eye patch, Michael blurted out. You think my eye patch is sexy? It's sexy hot, Michael said enthusiastically. I suppose you want to see me wearing nothing but my eye patch. Every night I look forward to when we are married. You can come to me dressed like that. You're serious. With all my heart. Kimberly sat there for a few seconds and mused over what he said, then stuck her hand stuck her hand in her pocket and took out her eye patch. She took off the sunglasses and put the patch on. Put the patch on again. And she reached down and started to pull her t-shirt up. No, stop, Michael said quickly. Not now. Wait until we're married. But don't you want to see? Yes, I do, but not until we're married. I love and respect you, and I don't want to diminish you by having you being exposed outside of our marriage. Oh, that's so sweet. Not that sweet. Not that sweet. If I see you like that, I may not be able to control myself when we get together. Still sweet. You're caring about diminish me. I'm not going to win this, am I? Nope. Still sweet. Yes, my love, my super hot, sexy ninja, my super scout husband. All right, hang on. They're making noise in there. I'll be back in a minute. Okay. Also, I forgot my water too. But the youngest decided he wanted to go home. All right. Janet was loading up another haul from Honeyville Farms when her cell phone rang. She saw it was Benjamin, so she answered it on speaker and set the phone on the seat as she finished loading the cases of food. Hey, babe, how are you and Michael doing? Did you get what you were looking for at Joann's Fabrics? Yeah, we got everything, including heavy-duty thread and needles that'll fit your mom's old sewing machine that can handle the thread. Great. Where are you off to next? Michael wants to go to Radio Outlet over in Glendale. He says we need to get some 220 handheld radios for group communications when the cell phones stop working, and a scanner to know what's going on afterwards. Okay, what time do you think you'll be back? We should be home by noon. Should I call Monica and Kimberly and see if they want to come over for lunch before we head back out? Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. Okay, I'll call them. See you at the house for lunch. Monica and Kimberly had just left preparing wisely and were going to go to Honeyville Farms for more food supplies. The trailer that they had was a Wells Cargo mini wagon trailer. It was 86 cubic feet with a max of 2,000 pounds. The trailer was two-thirds full and had a decent supply of food for the two of them. Monica wished that they could have gotten a larger trailer, but the dealership was sold out of everything bigger that she felt comfortable towing. It was 11:10 and it was 11:10, and Monica figured they had enough time to finish filling the trailer and still meet the Clarks for lunch by 12:30. She glanced over at Kimberly, who was working on her laptop, downloading all of the survival manuals and prepper garden books and such material that they could think of, that they that they that they could think of that would help them to survive the collapse of society. Monica was hoping this was all a waste of time, and that the asteroid would not come close to Earth. But every time she watched the president or one of the many government officials talk about how there was nothing to worry about, she got a dreadful feeling that they were covering up the truth. Sure, they were evacuating the coastal areas below 1,000 feet, but that was it. Yet she was thankful for the supply tips and meal suggestions that Janet and Benjamin had given her. Yesterday, she had ordered 4 100-watt solar panels from Amazon with next day shipping, so they would be here this afternoon. She also picked up a 7 cubic foot freezer at Sam's Club and 4 lithium iron phosphate batteries, deep cycle batteries at Batteries Plus. Benjamin said he would show them how to set them up and maintain them in the trailer. That if they had to leave quickly, they would have the freezer already loaded in the trailer. That way, if they had to leave quickly, they'd already had it loaded in the freezer. As they drove to Honeyville Farms, Kimberly was talking about the different manuals and books she was getting and what they were for. She was really excited about some of the winter gardening books she found for her Kindle. She also said that they needed to stop by Monica's work and pick up some winter and more summer garden seeds and some winter seedlings to plant as soon as they got to Jake's place. She was interested in getting some kale, spinach, meteor peas, winter snap peas, and snow peas. When Monica pulled into the parking lot of Honeyville Farm, she was surprised there were not more cars there. She was able to get 3 stalls close to the front and park sideways with the trailer. Once parked, she and Kimberly went inside and started loading a cart with 25-pound bags of quick-rolled oats, whole grain rye, black beans, pinto beans, white beans, hard red wheat, hard white wheat, and long grain white rice. They got 4 bags of each for a total of 800 pounds. Then they loaded 10 cases of spaghetti at 20 pounds per case. They figured the spaghetti was the best weight versus space pasta there was. Macaroni, rigatoni, and rigatoni and rotoni, they realized were tubes full of air and a waste of space. They also picked up a hand crank grain mill instead of an electric because of the price. They needed to conserve and the need to conserve electrical power usage from the limited solar system they would have for all their needs. Paying for their latest haul, Monica breathed a sigh of relief that her credit card wasn't maxed out yet. Kimberly started pushing the cart out to the truck while Monica signed the receipt. They quickly loaded the bags and boxes in the back of the truck and headed out to Clark's for lunch. And to get the lithium iron phosphate batteries hooked up to the power inverter so they could get the freezer running and transfer the ground beef they got yesterday into it. until the solar panels were hooked up to the batteries at Jake's, they could use one of the outlets in the barn or use a battery charger to keep the batteries charged. Here they would just plug the freezer into the house until they left. After lunch, Michael installed a toolbox from Harbor Freight on the tongue of the Jackson's trailers for the lithium iron phosphate batteries. Then he and Benjamin wired the voltage controller for the solar panels, a quick connect for the solar panels, a 21 a one a 120-volt plug for connecting to house power, and a 10 amp lithium iron phosphate battery charger. So rather than unplugging the freezer from the inverter and plugging it into the house power cord, the charger would top off the batteries and the freezer would keep running off the batteries for what little time it needed to operate. When the lithium iron phosphate batteries are charged, the charger would automatically go into standby mode. Once everything was installed and tested, Monica thanked Benjamin, Janet, and Michael for all their help and guidance. Michael and Kimberly spent a few minutes alone off to the side, talking and holding each other. Shady Hill Homestead is in the house. Where they lose it? We're holding each other. Michael gave her 2 Yaesu quad band transceivers and told her, all right, hang on a second here. I got a boy in here. Hang on. All right, back again. Sorry about that. Yeah, Eli's worker canceled on him this morning, and my daughter brought him over early instead of waiting until just before they go to church because he gets upset at church. All right, where was I? Michael gave her 2 Yaesu quad band transceivers and told her how to access the call frequencies that he had programmed into the radio's memory. All right, hang on a second. I got to take care of this. Okay. All right. Beep, beep, beep. access the frequencies he programmed into the radio's memory. He also gave her a package with a roll-up antenna and everything she'd need to hook it up and run the radio on the solar batteries. Now I need to change that. Okay. Lifepo. Okay. After giving Michael and Kimberly 10 minutes of private time to talk, Monica said they had to go and get more supplies. 75 minutes later, they had returned, dropped off the trailer in the garage at home, and hooked it up to the power, then headed back out. Tuesday afternoon. Michael had just gotten off the phone with Annie from the venture crew. He told her that one of his guests was a first dan black belt and third level instructor in Jeet Kune Do, and an archer with the Japanese bow, and asked if they wanted them to do a demonstration too. Annie was very excited and said yes. So Michael was now calling Kimberly with a request. Hey, my extra special, super hot, sexy ninja wife to be. Okay, that was over the top. What's up? I may have stepped over the line and taking liberties with your time and skills. Kimberly sighed. What did you do? I was talking with Annie from the venture crew about tonight's meeting and karate demonstration when I told her about you and offered you to demonstrate what you can do. He quickly added, I'm sorry, I should have asked you first. Please forgive me. What sort of demonstration did you have in mind? Whatever you want to show off your skill, whatever you want to do to show off your skills, I love. Kimberly chuckled. How about how I can tickle your tonsils with my tongue? I'm game, but our parents won't be thrilled. Yeah, well, I guess I better just catch your arrows from one of the 25-pound pole bows. 25-pound pole bows. Panic jumped into Michael's voice. Are you serious? Of course. If you do a 3/4 pound pole, it'll be easy. Maybe we should practice some first. Good idea. I'll call our moms and let them know that we're going to practice for the meeting. And no, I'm not going to tell them I'm catching arrows. Yeah, that would be bad enough when they see it. We'll use blunt tip just in case I get distracted by your green arrow outfit. Does that mean you'll be in your ninja outfit? Sure, but I'll have to change there. You can use the changing room in the women's restroom. Hang on, I need to make this a little bit more. How do you know there's a changing room in the women's restroom? Because there's one in the men's room, and I asked about it. They're for the church's baptismal font. But you'll have plenty of room to change. Cool. I'll call you after I talk to them and get permission for us to be together. Where do you want to practice? Your house has more room with the 5-acre yard. Okay, I'll let you know what they say. 4 minutes later, she called back. Husband, I don't believe it. They both sounded fine with it. I didn't have to make any promises, and they both said to have fun. They've been taken over by aliens from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Michael joked. Yeah, it was weird. She paused and thought, but come on over and we can practice. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I'll get my pads and face mask out. Love you more. You win. They laughed and hung up. The venture crew meeting was at the Mormon Stake Center and Cultural Hall and Multural Hall / multi-purpose room. There were about 70 people there. Chairs were lined up in an arch shape of 8 rows of 10 chairs on each side, and an aisle that ran down the middle of the room. Michael had his parents, Monica and Kimberly, sit in the back row of the center aisle. James opened the meeting with the Ventures doing the Scout Oath and the Outdoor Code. Then Annie did a quick rundown on upcoming activities. Then she introduced the 5 karate demonstrators. They talked about the advantage of knowing martial arts and how you can use it to protect yourself. They did some demonstration. Then they did some demonstration matches. And while they sparred, one of them talked about the life advantage of martial arts. He talked about clarity of mind that one could get from it. Kimberly snickered when she recognized him. Michael, she whispered to him, did you really watch my last match? Of course. Do you recognize him? She pointed to the competitor who was talking. Michael stared for a second, then his eyes widened and he whispered back, is this going to be a problem? It shouldn't. I'm going to get changed. Text me when you want me to come. Okay, my ninja. Kimberly smiled and kissed at him, then stepped out carrying her bow case. After 5 minutes, Michael's phone pinged and displayed the word ready. He typed in come but didn't hit send yet. When Annie asked Michael if his guest was here, he got up and walked to the front of the room and hit the send icon. Yes, I just need to set these up first. He stood up 2 6-foot-long 4x12 beams with beams 3 feet to each side of the center of the room. Hang on. Hang on. I double repeated this, so I'm going to take that part out of there. There we go. He hit the send icon on his phone, reached down and picked up a 4x12 inch a 4x12 inch by 12 inch block and held it in front of him, bracing his stance for impact. He nodded, and the lights in the room went out except for the ones at the very front above Michael. On the beams were painted 3 red circles 6 inches in diameter. Suddenly, an arrow hit one of the top red circles dead center. Then another hit the other top red circle dead center. Then another. The arrows kept coming about 1 second till there were 6 arrows in each of the 2 top red circles. All the while, Kimberly, wearing her ninja yoroi, was walking towards the front from the back of the room as she shot. The only thing that anyone could see of her was her right eye. When she reached the back row, she flipped the arrow around and slipped it over her head and across her back. Then she started throwing knives at the second red circles. She threw 6 knives in rapid succession with each hand. Then she changed to shurikens and put 4 shurikens in the bottom circles. When she reached the front row, she threw the last 2 shurikens at the same time with each hand. Then she ran the last 20 feet towards Michael, did a forward flip and landed in front of him with her left arm extended and the tips of her fingers barely touching the block he held. She held her stance for 3 seconds, then yelled, curled her fingers into a fist as it drove forward through the block, breaking into 3 pieces. Everyone gasped, including the karate demonstrators. One venture girl said, hang on here, loudly, wow, he's good. He sure is, agreed one of the male ventures. Michael quickly put the pieces of wood blocks down and picked up his bow and arrows, which were laying on the floor against the front wall. He quickly walked to the middle of the room, and he turned the lights back on. Michael Moore is an Eagle Scout with 66 merit badges and 9 Eagle Palms. He has earned the Denali Award, the highest in varsity scouts. He has also earned the Summit Ranger. Sorry, I need to. I knew I forgot to carry one down here. Summit Silver, SIL Silver, and Ranger Awards, the highest in Venture Scouts. He won every he has won every archery competition he has entered in the last 3 years. He won his division at state archery competition this summer. He never misses. Michael turned. Sorry, I'm transposing words here. Michael turned and quickly fired 6 arrows in rapid. Sorry, I don't even get this right. Michael turned and quickly fired 6. And I need to put stuff in it. 6. Arrows in rapid Is that right? Ooh, I did spell it right. Ooh. In rapid succession at Kimberly, who alternating hands caught all of them. Again, this brought gasps from everyone, including the karate demonstrators. Monica was stiff and white as a ghost, holding her breath. Janet was frozen too, squeezing Benjamin's hands. Kimberly dropped the arrows by the front wall and turned back towards Michael, who had drawn his bow back again, but this time he had 2 arrows knocked. Kimberly took her stance and nodded very slightly. Michael shot and Kimberly caught the arrows, one in each hand at the same time. This brought more gasps from everyone. Kimberly then turned to the karate demonstrations and motioned to the demonstrator. She pointed out to Michael. He stepped forward. She did a double black flip and landed in full splits with her right fist against her left palm and winked. She winked at the demonstrator. Jason sucked his breath in surprise. He dropped to his knees and bowed to the floor and said, "Master." Then, like she did at the competition, she made snake-like movements with her hands and arms. Got to put the S on the arms. There we go. Arms. As she brought her hands back to her waist and using only the muscles in her legs, stood up by pulling them together slowly. Everyone broke out in applause. Kimberly reached up and took off her Zukin hood and Fukumin, the face covering. And this brought oohs and ahs from the ventures, especially the girls. When she held her hand out to Jason, "I like your presentation." Jason looked up looked at her in surprise. "Thank you." He took the offered hand and stood up. Then he bowed to her again. And again said, "Master." The other 4 demonstrators stepped forward and did likewise. Again, everyone broke out in applause. Michael walked up beside her and put his arm around her and gave her a gentle squeeze. Looking up over her right shoulder at Michael, she reached up with her right hand, slid it around his neck to the back of his head, and pulled his lips down to hers and gave him a long kiss. Good shooting, my super scout, my love, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. In the back row, Benjamin commented, they trust each other completely. Truly, they are made for each other. Michael and Kimberly asked Jason to join them up front. They then explained while karate and Jeet Kune Do or any other martial art is beneficial to one's mind and physical health, it takes time to learn, but it is time well spent. They also explained that weapons training for archery and throwing weapons also takes a lot of time to be good at it, to be as good as they were. But this is also time well spent. Kimberly said that Michael is much better at archery than she because that was his sole discipline, whereas she had several disciplines and as such had to spread her time out among them. She said when she saw that she saw Michael do a Robin Hood arrow split during practice once, and the only reason he could was the amount of time he spent practicing. Then they addressed the asteroid issue, the fact that some people will use anything as an excuse to take advantage of others. They agreed that there will be some troublemakers that would be coming out as the asteroid gets nearer. They said that if those in the audience that were worried about their safety from these troublemakers, then they should choose one thing and do it as a family to ready themselves. Whether it was martial arts, archery, or whatever, they need to immerse themselves in it. If you never use the gun, now is not the time to get one, unless you're going to spend 3 hours every day for the next month at the gun range with an instructor. Kimberly emphasized key words. I was given a handgun by the father of a soldier my father died saving. He said he wanted me to be safe, but I won't use it for defense until I spend at least 100 hours on the range with a private instructor learning how to use it properly and practice using it. She reached up and patted her bow, and I'm good at hitting a target. Of course, you can believe that nothing bad is going to happen, and I hope you're right, but I doubt it. Remember that even a good person will behave like an... She paused and looked at Jason. An ass? Jason said. An idiot when stressed out. And remember, anger is the mind killer, Jason finished the phrase and stepped closer to Kimberly. Last Saturday at a match, my friend fought Kimberly. He went into the match thinking to punish her for daring to compete with a handicap. He gestured to her eye. It turned out my friend had the handicap, arrogance and conceit, unjustifiable arrogance. It killed his mind and he fought lousy and was beaten 12-0. I lost my clarity and got mad, and he took off his bilbok top, and everyone gasped at the extensive bruising that covered his torso. Challenged Kimberly to in a very disrespectful way to an honor match. In my anger, I showed no honor. She showed nothing but honor and schooled me in a calm and honorable way. He gestured to his torso. Anger is the mind killer and the body killer too. So don't count on others to behave when they are panicked or other raw emotions such as anger set in. Michael spoke up. A lot of people will be angry if things don't go as smoothly as they think it should. They'll be angry at the government for not taking care of them. They'll be angry. Sorry, that's not supposed to be a capital. Okay, hang on here. There we go. They'll be angry at those who prepared for the worst and have things they don't. They'll be angry at themselves for not taking care of their family. They will take it out on, and they will take it out on everyone else. So what do you suggest? A parent in the audience asked. Calmly, hang on, I want to put something here, put emphasis on this. Calmly get food and cooking supplies to shelter at home, Michael replied. Or if you have a place out of the city, like a vacation property or a relative's house, you can start by moving supplies there so you can get out quickly if it gets unsafe for you to stay here. Think long-term camping if you plan on bugging out, Jason said, surprising Kimberly. Winter camping, wet, cold, miserable camping. Don't let others know what you're doing. They may come after your supplies. And while there may be strength in numbers, numbers can turn on you if there is a shortage of food, Michael added. There are 3 books about this type of event. They came out last year. They were written by Sheriff Walt Rogers. You can get hardback, paperback, or Kindle versions, Kimberly said. What are they called? Someone asked before she could finish. I was getting to that. And let me put something in there. Yeah, I was getting to that. She said with a smile. The first in the series is called Blood Moon Falling. The second is The Dying Winter, and the third is Tawaki Time. If you are going to create a group, make sure everyone in the group can contribute, like with a patrol troop or crew. Everyone works together and shares responsibility. Nobody rides for free, Michael said. Annie started clapping as she walked towards the front. Thank you all for the demonstration, the words of wisdom on preparation. Next week, we'll have a food storage expert from Preparing Wisely. Good night, everyone. As the people began to get up and leave, Jason turned to Kimberly. I apologize for my disrespectful behavior, Master, and bowed. Apology humbly accepted, and she bowed. The other demonstrators joined Jason. Master, they shouted and bowed. May we train under you? Jason asked, surprising her. We'll have to see what happens after the asteroid passes and how fast things return to normal. They bowed again and left. When they had stepped away, Annie and several of the girl ventures came up to Kimberly and to ask her questions. Are you blind in that eye? One of the youngest asked. Don't ask that. Hang on, I need to capitalize the word here. Don't ask that, another girl said. It's not polite. It's okay. Or that's okay. And no, in fact, I have super night vision because of a chemistry accident in high school. The patch has tiny holes, which limits the amount of, that limits the amount of light that comes through to my eye so it doesn't hurt. Who taught you all of that? Another asked. My teacher for most of my life was Diana Lee Inosanto, Diana Lee Inosanto, goddaughter of Bruce Lee. Wow, several of them said with even greater awe. So Michael's better than you with bows? This is my favorite bow. She patted the bow across her back. It is a Yumi Henku. bow, a traditional Japanese bow. I also shoot other historical bows like English longbow. But yes, I think he is much better than me. Is Michael really your boyfriend? Sort of, she smiled. He's my fiance. Aw, a couple of girls said, obviously in disappointment. Sorry, girls, he's all mine. Hey, Michael said, walking back over to Kimberly. You know, there's no dating fellow ventures anyways. Yeah, they whined. I guess this means I need to leave the crew, he said to Annie. Not until you're married, which is when? 22 months, Kimberly and Michael said together. After the meeting, Michael took Kimberly to Arizona Mills Mall for ice cream, but changed his mind when he saw the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. Kimberly got a bag with an assortment of her favorites and a few for her mom. Then they walked around the mall talking about things, including how strange it was that everyone was going about life as normal. They began to wonder if they were overreacting to the asteroid. Maybe NASA and the president were right. Maybe the worst thing was going to happen is that what going to happen was that if it got close enough, there'd be some very high tides and just the coastal areas would be affected. As they walked past a jewelry store, they heard a loud crash of glass breaking. They turned and saw three hooded gangbangers breaking the glass cases and grabbing jewelry from within. Kimberly was pulling out a couple of her throwing knives when Michael grabbed her around the waist, picked her, and pulled her away to the far side of a sunglass kiosk. Get down, he rasped. What are you doing? Now is not the time to be a hero. She shot him a hard look. So you want to cower like a beat dog? I don't want to lose my wife before our honeymoon. For one thing, and it's not our job, it's theirs. He pointed to a couple mall security guards walking behind him. You're thinking of our honeymoon? He reached over and put his hand on her cheek and gently brushed the thumb across it. I think about it quite often. Then he looked at the security guards who were still walking towards them, oblivious to what had happened in the jewelry store. So he yelled at them, "They're robbing the jewelry store." The security guards flinched and drew their weapons. One got on his radio and called for backup as they crouched and started duck walking towards the store. They were about 20 feet away when the gangbangers came running out of the store. Freeze, yelled the security guards. One of the gangbangers had a gun and turned on the security guards. As he raised the gun to fire, one of the security guards had the wherewithal to fire first. The gangbanger staggered back from the impact of the 38 caliber slug, then straightened up and shot back. His first two shots missed both the security guards. The second guard began firing as the other two, as did the other two gangbangers. The gangbangers took several hits before they were able to hit either of the security guards. One of the security guards was wearing a bulletproof vest and was able to remain in the firefight until he was hit in the leg. The other security guard wasn't wearing a vest and went down with a wound to his upper chest and one to his arm. When both security guards were down, the gangbangers stopped firing and advanced on them. There's another reason. Another reason is that they have body armor under their shirts, Michael pointed out. Really, Kimberly said, as a sneaky thought popped in her head. She leaned out from behind the kiosk and threw a knife at each of the gangbangers, hitting them in the buttocks. They screamed at the unexpected pain and turned to see who assailed them, but Kimberly had already retreated out of sight. Her knives were buried deep in the gangbanger's flesh and rubbed against the bone as they moved, causing more pain. So, more pain, So they reached around to pull them out. Because of the angle the knives were at when they grabbed hold of them and pulled them out, the knives cut them even more, causing even more swearing. The security guard that was wounded in the leg realized the gangbangers were wearing body armor and took an aim at the head of a gangbanger closest and shot. The gangbanger's head exploded its contents onto his two partners, shocking them into inaction. The security guard took advantage of this hesitation and took advantage of this and lined up on the next gangbanger and shot him in the face, dropping him instantly. The remaining gangbanger aimed his gun at the guard and was about to fire when he was hit in the neck by another of Kimberly's knives, causing him to hesitate long enough for the security guard to shoot him in the face too. As soon as the last gangbanger was down, Michael and Kimberly made their way over to the wounded security guards. When they got near, Michael called out, "I'm an Eagle Scout with first aid training. Do you want me to help you?" Both guards hollered yes. Michael and Kimberly went to the guards and began helping them. The security guard that was wounded in the leg, if they asked who threw the knives at the gangbangers. "I did," Kimberly said. "Thank you, you saved our lives." Just then, 4 security guards came running up on the scene from one direction, one from one direction, and 3 more from another direction. No, 4 of them came running from one direction, and 3 more from another direction. Got to get it right, guys. And Vanessa Kitty's in the house. When the new security guards took over giving first aid, Michael and Kimberly stepped back and pulled out their phones and texted their parents that they were okay and what happened. About 2 minutes later, Tempe police arrived at the scene and began securing the area, having witnesses stand in one area to be interviewed. A police officer noticed the blood on their hands and asked if they were injured. They said no, the blood was of the security guards from when they were giving them first aid. They added that they saw the robbery in progress and had hidden, and when the security guards were walking, and when the securities were walking, TWAR towards the store, they warned them just before the robbers came out. He asked for their IDs and started writing their information down. When he noted that they were minors, he asked for their parents' information. My mother is Kimberly Jackson, and your father, James Jackson. The officer stopped writing, looked her in the eye. "Major James Jackson." "Hoorah," she replied, knowing what was going to happen, and she wasn't disappointed. The officer snapped to attention. "I knew your father. He saved my butt more than once. I'm glad to see his daughter helping others too." After he got all their information, he thanked them for their help and had them stand aside by themselves. Then he went. A few minutes later, he returned with a captain who was carrying something wrapped in a plastic bag. These were never here, and you didn't do anything but render first aid," the captain said, slipping her the bag. "It turns out the DVR for the CCTV cameras covering this area and malfunction, and the DVD is blank. Shame." The officer had a container of Purell wipes and for them to clean their hands. "This gang has been hitting jewelry stores and gold traders all over the area. Now, thanks to you, we know who some of them are, and we can track them down," he explained. Kimberly hesitated as she wiped her hands clean. No one is going to get into any trouble, are they? No. The equipment malfunctioned. You can go. Semper Fi. Hoorah. Thank you. As Kimberly Michael walked away, several of the officers came to attention, saluted her, then quickly returned to their duties. They'd gone about 80 yards beyond the police tape line when Michael noticed that Kimberly had tears on her cheeks. What's wrong? She turned and hugged him tightly. I miss my dad. And she started crying openly. He wrapped his arms around her and held her tight until she stopped crying and pushed gently away. Let's go home, she said. By the time they had returned to Kimberly's home, Benjamin and Janet had been there for a while. When they drove up, their mothers came running out of the house to make sure they were really all right. After the initial hugs and being looked over to make sure everything was intact and unscathed, they were then chastised for putting the other in danger. They were, each chastised for putting the other in danger and for staying and watching instead of running, for getting involved. Finally, Benjamin had enough and shouted for Janet and Monica to stop picking on the kids. Then he corrected himself and said to stop picking on the young adults. In doing so, he shamed the mothers into silence. Then he had Kimberly and Michael tell them exactly what really happened. Michael and Kimberly told them about their doubts about the asteroid and what they were doing, and maybe nothing was going to happen. And it was at that time they heard the glass being smashed and how they ran and hid behind the kiosk, how they warned the security guards. Michael realized that the gangbangers were wearing body armor, and Kimberly throwing the knives to save the security guards. Save the security guards, and let the security knows how they could stop them. It was then about how the police and what the police did and how Kimberly felt as they were leaving. Then they told their parents what the police said about the gangbangers and robbing gold and jewelry stores. If they're doing that, then they must believe things are going to get bad and paper money will become useless. If this gang is getting ready for everything collapsing, then there are probably other gangs and groups getting ready for anarchy, for the anarchy they believe will occur with the passing of the asteroid, Michael explained. If that is, and if that is the case, then things are going to get very dangerous in the cities and suburbs very soon, Kimberly added. I think you're right, Benjamin said grimly. It looks like we were right all along. Chapter 6, Wednesday, Moving Supplies. 2037. September 23rd, 2037, Wednesday morning. It was just after 9 o'clock in the morning, and Michael and his parents were pulling out to take another load of their supplies, of their food supplies and other supplies to their cabin. Of their food stores and other supplies to their cabin. They were in the Chevy van and Michael was driving his dad's Toyota Sienna. They left Michael's 1969 Jeep Wagoneer in the garage for a later trip, as it was empty right now. They had loaded their 2 upright freezers from the house into the trailer, as well as a second refrigerator from the garage. Then they repacked them with the frozen food, and from the frozen food. The big chest freezer from the garage was in the back of the van with boxes of number 10 cans stacked around it to keep it from moving. The rest of their food storage was packed into the Sienna with some of their clothing. The rest of the space in the trailer was packed with more clothing, DVDs, CDs, kitchenware, small appliances, mattresses and beddings, towels, and everything else they could squeeze in. Tomorrow's trip should be the last one with the trailer if things worked out for them. Then they could just use the van and Jeep to move more things they wanted. If the general populace kept buying into the president's message for a couple more days, then they would have everything moved to the cabin. Monica was packing away mementos to take to Jake's place in Alpine. She had several large black tubs with yellow lids from Costco filled and sitting in the living room waiting to be loaded into the truck. She kept adding more and more tubs of things to take to Jake's because she began to realize that her home may not survive until she returns in several months. If a fire started in the neighborhood, embers could land on it, and then her home would be burnt down with everything in it. As she went through her closet, she came across a storage container of her late husband's stuff that she had packed away 2 years ago after he was killed in the Middle East. Now memories came flooding back and washed over her. She picked up his dress blue uniform and held it to her chest tightly and rocked back and forth as she began to cry. James, I wish you were here. Our little baby's growing up and becoming a young woman with a fiance. The tears were flowing freely down her cheeks. I need you so much, James. I need you to tell me what to do. Kimberly had taken the pickup to go get more arrow shafts and a variety of tips and some repair kits. While she was there, she spotted an Anita Eagle Phoenix lever action recurve compound bow in the rack behind the counter. It was like a flame to a moth. The bow drew her to it. She asked if she could check it out. The salesman was a bit dismissive when he took it down for her, saying it was $1,200. Kimberly shot back indifferently, saying that was half what her Yumi Hanku bow cost. She inspected the bow and then asked if she could test shoot it. Reluctantly, he took her to their indoor class range. On the way, the assistant manager spotted Kimberly. Hey, Kimberly, she called out. Hey, Tina, Kimberly smiled back. Are you looking at getting the Phoenix? She asked, a little perplexed because that was not the type of bow that Kimberly usually looked at. Yeah, my fiance thought I might need something a little more combat worthy. Holy cow, you're engaged? Tina asked in disbelief. Who's the lucky guy? Super Scout, she smiled broadly. You and Michael? Wow, that's so cool. What'd your mom say when you told her? She freaked out, Kimberly chuckled. At first, we were just joking around, dating today, steady tomorrow, engaged the next. But, she sighed, the bug sunk its fangs in deep, and in a couple of days, we weren't joking anymore. Wow, the scout and the ninja engaged. She shook her head, then looked at the bow that Kimberly had. Let me know what you think of the Phoenix. And then to the salesman, Chuck, give her 50 arrows to test it. 50, he exclaimed. Yeah, you'll see why. She turned in and could be heard chuckling. The scout and the ninja getting married. Dang, never saw that coming. Shall we? she said to Chuck. Then she heard Tina shout, "Randy, you're not going to believe this." The prisoner sat in the back of his cell in the dark. The cell was an alcove cut into the rock of the cave where his captors were currently holed up. They had been in this location for about a month, and if they kept it the routine, they would move in 5 months. But what he could understand from their whispered conversations, things were not going as routine. He picked up on words that at first made no sense. Finally, he pieced together that there was a comet or planetoid heading towards Earth. They were talking about moving to a higher location to avoid floodwaters. That worried him. If they were panicking because they believed that most of the land was going to be flooded, they might just kill him because he'd be excess baggage or because he would no longer be needed. Either way, it did not look good for him. What worried him more was the fact that if a comet or planetoid was going to cause floodwaters to reach the mountains of Afghanistan, then what would happen in America and to his family? Kimberly shot 3 arrows, then made a tension adjustment to the bow, shot 3 more, made another adjustment. Then 2 more groups of 3 and made adjustments. Then she moved to a new target and finished shooting off the rest of the 50 bows in rapid fire mode. Chuck stood there with his mouth hanging open at what she did. On the final target, there were 38 arrows in a 4-inch group. Kimberly turned around to say that she'd take the bow and saw Chuck, and she busted out laughing. Behind him, Tina and the store's owner, Randy, stood taking videos. "This is going on the homepage," Randy said. "Dang, girl, I thought you just shot historic bows. My Super Scout was worried about me relying on the Yumi Hengu for hunting." She fudged a little bit of the truth. "But I like it. I'll buy it." "No, you won't," Randy said. "It's a wedding present." Kimberly almost dropped the bow in shock, letting out a high-pitched squeal of joy and excitement that was usually reserved for Christmas morning. Then she ran over and hugged both Randy and Tina. Wednesday evening. I need to take out a space here. Boom, there we go. Janet had stayed at the cabin to get everything they brought up put away and ready for the supplies that Benjamin and Michael were going to get later today and bring up tomorrow afternoon. That doesn't sound to get. Hang on, I gotta change this. My timeline doesn't match. Delete. To get to MO tomorrow morning, and bring up tomorrow afternoon. People were still not panicking. Yet, which was a good thing for the, misspelled that one. There we go, got that fixed. Which was a good thing for the Clark family. After their conversations with Monica and Kimberly, Benjamin and Janet realized they may very well have more guests staying with them, which they had not planned for. They would need to have more room for supply storage and more food growing capacity. Because of that, tomorrow's trip, Benjamin and Michael will be getting items they would need to expand their capacities. She sat up in bed with a notebook, writing down everything that she remembered that they had brought up so far. Once she had everything written down, she would make an Excel spreadsheet list, make an listing, listing it all and how much they had of each item. This is why I'm doing this. So because I've read through this thing several times. I've made a bunch of corrections before, but I've always read quietly. I've been reading it out loud. Reading out loud, I'm finding errors. She shivered. The cabin seemed much colder without her men there. When Benjamin and Michael pulled into the driveway, they were surprised to see the Jackson's Ford sitting there with Kimberly in it. They had barely stopped the van when she opened the door and grabbed Michael's hand and started dragging him out of the van. You got to see this. You won't believe it. Randy gave it to me as a wedding present. Randy? Benjamin questioned. The owner of Archery Headquarters, they both said together. Tina stopped me when I was checking this out. She reached in the cab of her mom's truck and pulled out the Anita Eagle Phoenix bow. She was a little befuddled that I was looking at it. I told her that my fiance said I needed something more hunt-worthy than the Yumi Hanku. And when she found out that you were my fiance, she got all giddy and told me to shoot 50 arrows with it. Then she ran off and told Randy about us. I used 12 hours to tune it, and the rest I shot in a 4-inch group. Randy and Tina got there in time to video it. They said and when I said I would buy it, he said no. He gave it to me for a wedding present. She took a deep breath. Isn't this the greatest? 38 arrows in a 4-inch group. Yeah, it was so smooth. I just rapid fire like you do. Well, almost like you do. It was incredible. We need to get you one. Do you know how much this costs? Michael asked, slightly unnerved. Yes, $1,200. What? Benjamin choked out. I was going to buy it with my savings, but since Randy gave me this one, I want to buy you one to match it, like wedding rings. Michael stood there with his mouth hanging open a little at the offering of her heart. She handed the bow to Benjamin. Take this inside while Michael and I go get his. We have just enough time to get there before they close. Okay. Benjamin, let me see. Yeah, change that from he to Benjamin. Benjamin said, uncertain as to what to do or say. Kimberly pushed Michael towards the passenger door of the Ford and ran around to the driver's side. We'll be right back, she shouted and hopped in the truck. All right, so, whoa. I got through those 2 chapters rather quick, hour and a half, which is probably good because I got more stuff to get ready for the next live stream in an hour and a half. I think it's in an hour and a half. Hang on, let me look to see what time it's at here. Let me go over here and look at it here. I think I set it for, maybe I set it for 12 o'clock. That case, that gives me more time. Look here, StreamYard. Yeah, I said it. So I got 2.5 hours before the next live stream. Hang on here. Let me see what I got here. Let me see how long this chapter is. I may switch things up a little bit more. Let me see. So I go from page 94 to 105. Hang on. 94 to 105. Only 10 pages. I'm going to finish off chapter 7 too. I'll just have to change the others around. Chapter 7, Thursday, September 24th. Hang on. Let me check something out here just to make sure. And that is, yeah, that has the same thing on it. Thursday morning, and put this on here. 2037. Thursday morning. More shopping. Thursday morning. Okay, here we go. Oh, wait a minute. I need to shrink that down. Yeah. Benjamin and Michael would make 2 more stops to get the supplies they wanted. If one of the stops was short of stock on hand, then they'd make a 3rd or 4th as needed. After talks with Monica, they decided they needed to get some apple trees and a couple of citrus trees. So with that in mind, Michael and Benjamin were going to pick up rolls of chicken wire and stock wire fencing, 3 or 4 dozen T-posts to make protective cages around the new young trees to keep the deer from eating them and killing them. Also, for the garden, they were going to get several rolls of heavy-duty black weed blocker fabric and some 10 mil clear plastic so they could use for a greenhouse. Several dozen of the 3-inch round wooden landscape poles and several bundles of the 1 by 2 inch strip boards for mini greenhouses for the citrus trees. They were going to get 2 dozen sheets of 1.8" subfloor plywood and a dozen sheets of 3/4 inch plywood. They figured they needed at least 108 feet long, need a 108 foot long 2x4s and 30. Oh, comma there. There we go. Now it makes sense. They needed at least 100 8-foot long 2x4s and 30 12-foot long 2x6s. With these, they could build an extension to the cabin consisting of a bedroom or 2, or a really big shed for other supplies. If they were able and the general populace remains calm, they might try for another supply run later in the week. Their first stop was at Lowe's Hardware. They hit the jackpot. They were able to get all the building supplies they're after in one shot. The 1.8" subfloor was on sale to boot, so they decided to get a lot more of it and overload the van and trailer. Benjamin was very glad they'd spent the extra money and bought the 2-axle trailer instead of the 1-axle trailer they were looking at when they started thinking about buying one. The salesman made some very good points about load capacity and stabilization of a 2-axle over a single-axle trailer. Now they are putting that to use and more, making the trailer maxing out the trailer's carrying capacity. Then they took the slow way back to the house and unloaded 1/4 of the 1.8" subfloor in the garage. They'd come back for it on the next trip. Benjamin suggested on a future trip they get a full load of 1.8" subfloor plywood and attach 2 or 3 thick sheets to the side of the cabin. This would give some degree of bullet protection in case they were attacked by marauders or other groups that wanted their supplies. It would stop most pistols other than the Smith & Wesson 50 caliber and most rifles under 30 caliber, and even some of those. After they finished unloading the plywood, against one of the exterior walls of the shop. They headed over to Moon Valley Nurseries to meet Monica Jackson. She told them she would give them her employee discount on all the trees and soil supplements they were going to get. It was just before noon when they pulled into the parking lot of Moon Valley Nurseries. Monica was talking to a truck driver who was tying down 3 cargo containers on his trailer. When she saw them, she excused herself and hurried over to them. Hey guys, did you hear NASA's update last night? Yeah, we saw it, Benjamin said, shaking his head. The spokesman wasn't very convincing. He looked like he didn't believe what he was reading. Wow, I was listening to the radio and I thought he sounded nervous. Hang on. And delete. Shook her head. I guess watching TV is better than just listening to it. So how's your morning so far? We got a whole bunch of building materials to make an addition to the cabin and build some greenhouses. And chicken wire and T-posts to protect the trees from deer. All right, Monica said, let's go get the trees. I set a couple dozen aside for you this morning. They're in 10-gallon containers. I use my employee discounts so they cost just a little bit more than the 5-gallon trees. But these already had some established roots and will survive the winter better. Plus, you don't have to plant them right away. You have to keep them in the garage where they won't freeze and plant them in the spring. That sounds pretty good, Benjamin said thoughtfully. It almost makes me want to get a couple of those big square tubs. Your trailer could only carry 2 or 3 at the most. Yes, you'd get fruit next year, but it'd only be from 2 or 3 trees. If you have enough supplies for a couple of years, it'd be better to get more smaller trees now and reap a much bigger harvest in 2 or 3 years. I guess you're right, price-wise. It would make more sense that the smaller trees would be better for the long run. I just wish we had more time to make more runs where we get a couple more mature trees, Benjamin sighed. If everyone keeps calm for the rest of the week, and keeps drinking the president's Kool-Aid, then we should be able to make a couple trips by next Saturday to our respective hideouts. Michael chimed in. I hope you're right, Benjamin said solemnly. But I have a nasty feeling that things are going to get dicey as we get closer to the arrival of the asteroid. Things will definitely go south rather quickly if the asteroid changes its path towards the Earth and news gets out about it. That's what I'm afraid too. If we were on our way back for more supplies and word gets out via social media, we might not hear about it on the news until we drive right into a hornet's nest. Then we may not be able to get out, Monica said with a bit of terror overshadowing her face. Janet was trying to figure out how to organize all the supplies as well as their belongings in the basement, and was about all their belongings. The basement was about half full, and the garage was nearly full, as was the breezeway between the house and the garage. But everything had just been piled in, not organized. Or that is what, and not organized, not or, and that is what she was going to start this morning. When she walked around making notes of what things were in which piles, she walked around making notes of what things were in which piles. When she was in the garage, she noticed a stack of shelving boards they brought up last year and hadn't done anything with. Then she got an idea. Thursday afternoon, Benjamin and Michael pulled out of the driveway with the trailer loaded to its maximum weight capacity as they headed to the cabin. The van was fully fueled, and the back was and the back was a quarter full of the inch-and-eighth plywood subfloor and 3 dozen 10-gallon trees stacked on top of the plywood. They would catch 101 north to Interstate 17 and take it north to Flagstaff. In Flagstaff, they take Interstate 40 east to where it connected with State Route 89 via Country Club Drive. They stopped at Mary's Cafe for breakfast and topped off the fuel tank on the van next door at the Conoco Travel Center. When they headed north up State Route 89 to Bitter Springs, where they took State Route 89A toward west towards Jacob Lake. Then they took Highway 67 south to the Forest Service Road 461 west and followed that a couple miles to the side road that led to the cabin. It was a bit after 6 when Benjamin and Michael pulled into the dirt road that was the driveway that led to the cabin property. They followed the dirt road as off to the left. They could see the stream that ran 4/5 of the year, now just a trickle. A minute later, they had the van and trailer pulled into the breezeway between the cabin and the two-car garage. The breezeway between the cabin and the garage was 14 feet wide and was covered by a connecting roof of the two buildings and had a concrete slab. They stopped the back of the trailer just beyond the side door of the garage so they could unload some of the just before. Let me put that. I know what I meant by just beyond, but I'm going to put just before the side door of the garage so they could unload some of the trailer into the garage and be able to stack the rest next to it on the slab. Janet came out of the back door of the cabin with a tray of sandwiches and a pitcher of lemonade. She set them on the wooden picnic table that was by the brick barbecue under the big pine tree next to the breezeway. It was the only big pine tree within 160 feet of the house. There are about 20 medium-sized pine trees around the house that acted as a wind and snow break, but they are no more than 15 to 20 feet high. About 20 acres of the 130-acre lot had been cleared, and the rest was sparsely wooded. It was a sparsely wooded meadow with heavier trees about 15 feet deep on the property line. The stream ran along the woods on the west side of the property, about 120 yards away from the cabin. Benjamin and Michael hurried over and gave Janet a hug and sat down to eat. As they sat down, Janet handed them each a plastic plate with a ham and cheese sandwich. Then she poured everyone a tumbler of lemonade and sat down herself. I got everything put away. We still have some room left in the basement, and the garage is almost empty. What? How? Benjamin and Michael sputtered. The basement was just about half full before we brought all the stuff up, Benjamin stated in disbelief. Yeah, Mom, that should have filled the basement and at least a third of the garage. Oh, I figured out if we're going to have guests dropping in on us, we better have most of our supplies hidden. So I put a lot of the dry goods in the attic and number 10 cans goods in the crawl space of the eaves. In the garage, I put a bunch of shelving boards up on the rafter joints and stacked more food up there. But the heavier stuff I put near the walls over the support posts. The lightweight items I put towards the center of the joist. Wow, Mom, you've been busy. I'll say, how much room is there for lightweight food? Benjamin asked. Well, if you got enough 2x6s, we can reinforce the rafters and put plywood floors up, and then we put a whole bunch of heavy stuff up there, Janet said, then took a bite of her sandwich. Benjamin nodded as he chewed. He took a sip of his lemonade and spoke. We'll have to get some more 2x6s tomorrow when we bring the rest of the plywood. I'll get a count of how many we need before we leave, Michael interjected. And we may need to get some 14-footers to span the breezeways. That would give us another hiding place to put stuff. I think we also need to get some more chainsaws and chain oil, Benjamin said thoughtfully. If we need to worry about raiders, we will need to plan out some other barriers around the cabin. We're going to need something bigger than the garden tractor. Maybe one of those Bobcat things with different attachments, Janet said. We'll look into that when we get back tonight, Benjamin said, and took another bite of his sandwich. We should see if there are any attachments for the garden tractor that we might need. We may need to rent one the day the truth comes out of the asteroids, Michael said. It might be risky, but it might be worth it. If it's worth getting, then it's worth buying one tomorrow and not risking getting caught in the city when everyone freaks out and not being able to get back here, Janet said fearfully. I don't want to lose either of you to a piece of equipment. Agreed, Benjamin said. Kimberly and Monica left their home shortly after into the truck and trailer. They were going to make the trip to Jake's, unload everything, and come back tonight, then get loaded up for another run tomorrow. The trip would take about 4.5 hours each way with the trailer. The last thing Monica did Tuesday afternoon was to withdraw as much money as she could from her and Kimberly's savings accounts and then transfer everything else to the checking account. She went to see a friend who worked at Tempe Pawn and Gold. She bought silver and gold coins and bars and spent most of what was left in her checking account. This was packed in the cubby holes under the back seat of the F-150. When she got to Jake, she was planning on burying a bunch of it just in case they had to flee. She figured that they could come back for it in a year or two if that happened. Raiders wouldn't stick around to farm. They would move on and keep raiding, she hoped. Kimberly was wearing a pair of her special sunglasses, the left lens over twice as dark as the right lens. This was to help compensate for the eye being so light sensitive from the chemistry class accident years ago. The right lens was a tent auto adjust lens, which allowed her not to have to change glasses when she went indoors. It also had a side lens that was auto adjusting as well. Now she was sitting in the front passenger seat of her mother's pickup as they headed to Jake's with her laptop open in front of her. She was using her hotspot to access Google Earth and look at Michael's foster home. She stopped and corrected herself. Adopted parents' cabin. It was much more secluded than she thought and away from any real town. There was Jacob Lake campground a couple miles down the road, but according to Michael, that was for tourists going to the Grand Canyon, which was in the opposite direction from their cabin. Besides the Jacob Lake Inn, the Kaibab Plateau Visitor Center was right next to it, and a few houses by them. They only had one other thing after the inn on Route 86, and that was the north rim of the Grand Canyon. Michael told her that in the winter, most of spring, the road was closed just after the turnoff to Michael's cabin. The Jacob Lake campground was a quarter mile from the turnoff, to the cabin and had several houses beside it. At the far end of the clearing that the cabin sat in was a pond of sorts. Off to the west, a creek was a creek bed. In Google Earth in the Google Earth picture, it was dry, but Michael said it had water most of the year, and they were planning to use it just for watering the garden. The pond was for any livestock they got, and the well was for the house. The entire property was surrounded by woods, and there wasn't another house to be seen within a mile or two. She could see why they got it so cheap. She couldn't tell exactly where the property line, but Michael said it was back in the trees a ways. She started daydreaming about building a cabin back by the pond for Michael and her, and a couple of kids. Making a few trips to outlying areas near the city to salvage solar panels, bath fixtures, kitchen appliances, and such for building their cabin. Heck, if they got lucky, they might find a portable hot tub or above-ground pool kit, she thought. They would need to enlarge the clearing to be able to plant enough crops to make ethanol for the Jeep, or in a couple of years after that, she believed was coming, they could move down to an area closer to Phoenix and get an abandoned home that was on a farm and ready to grow a lot of food and corn for biofuel. Yes, that would be nice. A house that has a pool that they could fix up and go swimming after a hard day's work. Yes, indeed, that'd be very nice. Then she started picturing Michael without his shirt on, coming in from working in the fields, all tan and skin glistening in the sun. Suddenly she was jerked out of her fantasy by her mother's voice asking, "What are you thinking about, huh? What are you thinking about? You have a big old grin on your face that's about ready to bust wide open." "I was just thinking if we survive this and in a couple of years finding an abandoned farm to work." And Michael walked in from the fields all shirtless and tan. "Okay," Monica interrupted. "I don't need to hear any more of your fantasies." Kimberly suddenly got an evil grin on her face. "But I didn't tell you about your house or 16 kids. Kimberly nearly lost control of the pickup when she looked around quickly at Monica nearly lost control of the pickup when she looked around quickly at Kimberly in shock and struggled to regain control and hollered at her, "16 kids? Are you nuts?" "Come on, Mom, I was just kidding. Geez, like I would do that in a fully functional world with working hospitals and doctors. Don't kid me like that again while I'm driving. I could have a heart attack." "A heart attack? Really, Mom? You're much too young for that. A conniption fit, maybe, but not a heart attack. I'll give you a conniption fit, young lady, if you don't behave yourself." "Don't worry, Mom. As much as I want to hop into bed with my Super Scout, I want to wait until we're married first even more." "Kimberly Jackson, I don't want to hear you talking like that. Come on, Mom. Would you rather me not talk about it and do it, or talk about it and not do it?" Kimberly fired back. "Because if I talk about it with you, I'm not going to get my if I talk about it with you, then I'm going to get my feelings out in the open. And if you're understanding about it, even though it makes you uncomfortable, you can help me do what's right." Monica drove in silence for a couple of minutes while she thought about what her daughter had said. She really didn't want to have this conversation with Kimberly. She'd had the birds and the bees talk years ago with Kimberly, but this was something different. This was talking about Kimberly actually having sex with someone she barely knew. But then it dawned on Monica what Kimberly was saying about not having sex until they were married. Monica took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "Okay, let's talk. What are your feelings about your Super Scout?" "He's perfect," she said a little too fast, and she realized quickly, "as far as what I thought a husband should be. but I guess I need to learn his quirks and habits, she sighed. Mom, he's trying to be very open with me, and that makes me want me to wrap myself around him and hug him for hours, sort of like you and Dad used to do in his recliner. Monica was suddenly hit with a wave of emotion that washed over her like a sneaker wave at the beach. She remembered the times Kimberly was talking about. She she didn't want to go deeper into those feelings. She was struggling with the memories of her husband enough as it was. Then she saw the smile on Kimberly's face. What are you smiling about? Just remembering how happy you and Dad were. I think Michael and I could be that happy too. Suddenly, the emotional dam broke for Monica. Shit, she said as she pulled the truck over to the side of the road. What's wrong, Mom? Babe, are you sure he's the one? Monica asked, staring at Kimberly hard in the eyes. I'm sure, Mom. We have so much in common. We have a lot of the same interests and hobbies. If we'd been going to the same school, we would have been dating for years. You used to feel that way about, what was his name? John? He was a crush, Mom. He was cute, but there weren't these feelings. With Michael, I ache in my chest after we say goodbye. My stomach feels weird when I think of Michael. I really care about him. When I saw him at the archery competitions, I was always attracted to him, but was never able to get to talk to him at any of the events, Kimberly sighed. There was never a boy that made me want to give up my martial arts and start having babies before. Monica continued looking deeply into her daughter's eyes for several more seconds. Then she saw something that broke her conviction and sighed. You can marry Michael anytime you want. Even tomorrow if you really want to. Kimberly launched from her seat, threw her arms around her mother's neck, and hugged her. Thank you for understanding, Mom. I love you. I just wish your father was here. I need him to tell me I'm doing the right thing. I know it's right for you, but I need to know that it's right for me. Kimberly released her from the hug. As after Kimberly released her from the hug, Monica pulled the truck back out onto the highway. Get tongue-tied here. Kimberly pulled out her phone and texted Michael. Mom said we can get married tomorrow if we want. Call when you can. Sorry, I gotta get the goop out of my eyes. It's drying up in here again, and with the dry air, it causes my eyes to tear up, and then the tears turn into goop. There we go. Okay, and we got 4 people back in here again. They're about an hour. In about an hour, they were pulling into Nutriso and had just about 13 miles to go to get to Jake's place in Alpine. When Kimberly saw something that made her jump with anticipation, Mom, pull over behind that trailer. Monica started braking when she saw the for sale sign on the trailer that Kimberly was pointing to. Good catch, baby. That's a good deal. The tires are good. The sign on the trailer read 16-foot, 3-axle, 2-inch ball, electric brakes, $4,000 or best offer. They quickly got out of the truck and headed to the trailer. As they walked around the trailer, Monica looked at tires. They were all in great shape. After they looked the trailer over, they went to the house that it was in front of and knocked on the door. The door opened as soon as they knocked. As soon as they knocked, the door opened as soon as they knocked to show the smiling face of an elderly woman. Why, hello, dears. Are you interested in buying the trailer? She asked in a sweet, quivering voice. Yes, we are. But how'd you know? I heard you stopped and watched you look it over. She smiled. Now, before we talk to the trailer, I have some questions to ask you, and your answers will help me determine if I will sell it to you or not. Okay, go ahead and ask Mrs. Monica replied. You can call me Ma Jackson. Everybody does. Now come in and have a seat. Monica entered with Kimberly coming in behind and closing the door. Where are you from? We're from Tempe. We're moving out some of our belongings out to our cousin's place up the road here in Alpine. We're going to have to make a couple trips to get everything, but with your trailer, we should be able to get it done in 2 trips, Monica explained. So you're planning to move here because of the asteroid? Monica hesitated before answering yes. Most of our family is coming here to get away from the craziness we believe is going to happen when the asteroid gets closer. Then after it passes and things settle down, we'll go back if our home survives the riots and stuff. And who is this? The elderly lady pointed to Kimberly. This is my daughter, Kimberly. Kimberly, if you don't mind my asking, why are you wearing a pair of sunglasses with a really dark lens? Well, my left eye was injured in a chemistry accident, and I keep it covered to protect it from bright lights. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cause you embarrassment. It's okay. It has its advantages. My boyfriend thinks I look like a hot spy when I'm wearing the eye patch instead of the glasses. Really? Who's your boyfriend? His name is Michael Edward Moore. He's an Eagle Scout, and we compete at archery competitions. On the same team, I suppose. Not yet. We've been competing on opposite teams from each other for 4 years, but we don't let that get in way of our friendship. You sound like a smart couple. I hope you continue to make it work. Most young people these days don't know what a real relationship is and wouldn't know what to do if they found themselves in one, she said with a wink to Kimberly. She pursed her lips for several seconds and thought, it's $4,000 cash or $3,500 in gold or silver coins or bars. Monica smiled. Kimberly, get the fanny pack from the truck. Kimberly ran out to the truck and dug under the back seat, pulled the black fanny pack out. She unlocked the truck and she relocked the truck and ran back into the house with it and handed it to her mother. Monica unzipped a pack and started pulling out $100 silver bars. When she slid them over to the elderly woman. The elderly woman's eyes widened in awe at the sight of silver. You must be preppers, huh? No, we just started and are playing catch up in a hurry, Monica said. Well, in any case, here's the title to the trailer. If you're good enough, you can back your little trailer inside and tie inside this one and tie it down. It should be fine if you go slow if you're only going a couple miles. I think it'd be quicker for me to take the little trailer to Jake's, drop it off, and come back here and get this one, Monica said. Good. Kimberly can stay and tell me about her Eagle Scout and have some of my oatmeal butterscotch cookies. Monica and Kimberly thanked her, and Monica left to take the little trailer to Jake's. 20 minutes later, she returned. 20 minutes. Uh, 20, 25 minutes later, Monica returned, and they hooked up the new trailer and headed back to Tempe to get more supplies. Kimberly took a small trace of cookies with her and promised that if she got Michael out that way, she'd bring him over. All right, there we go. We're going to stop here at chapter 8 and call it good for the day. And I will be back live in 2 hours for canning cowboy beans in the kitchen. And depending on how many I'm able to get into the canners, I may be doing some container freezing of cowboy beans as well, too. All right, everyone. See you in about 2 hours. All right. Bye. And